The largest genetic study involving people with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, has been published in the hopes of making diagnosis and treatment easier. Research group Decode ME, which is a collaboration between the University of Edinburgh and Action for ME, amongst others, have found 8 regions of DNA where genetic differences were similar with people who had the condition in comparison to the general public. About 250,000 people in the UK have ME and live with brain fog and extreme exhaustion. Joining me now is Laura Boyles, who has been living with ME for many years and took part in the study. And also we've got Professor Chris Ponting from the Decode ME study.
Hello.
Hello.
People with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, have wanted proof that they have an illness and that it's not in their head. Is this the proof you wanted?
It's definitely a step in the right direction. We're all very pleased and delighted, and a lot of people are feeling validation. But it's really also important that the medical establishment takes on this information as well. But this is definitely a huge step in the right direction, I think.
Tell me a bit about your life with ME.
I have to keep a very calm life, very slow, not very exciting, which is not much fun for my kids. I have teenagers, and I have had moderate ME for about 15 years, so I've been trying to raise children. I've had to quit work because I simply couldn't do both. And if I do something with the kids, if I leave the house, then I'm going to really suffer. 24, 48 hours afterwards, I'm going to be even more fatigued. I'm going to have headaches. I'm going to have brain fog. I get something that feels like my brain is on fire. It's really awful.
How do you manage the kids and the house?
I have had to make lots of changes to my life, so I get PIP.
Personal independence payments, yeah.
And so I can get a cleaner in once a week because strangely nobody else here is that keen on. I have a carer who spends time doing all of the things that I would normally do. He washes up, he takes the kids climbing, he takes me to my medical appointments. So that makes a massive difference to my life.
Does it feel a little bit frustrating when you can't do all the things you want to do with your children?
So hard. I cannot tell you how devastating it was when they were younger and they really wanted to go to the zoo and they wanted to go to theme parks and they wanted to do all these things and I could not take them. Now I still feel guilty even though they can make their own way, but there's a lot of guilt involved.
I feel you, sister. Listen, you took part in the study. Why did you do that and what did you have to do?
When you have ME, you feel very powerless. You don't feel like you can affect the world. And this was an opportunity to do something to make myself feel heard and to make a difference.
Amazing. What did you have to do to be part of the study?
Spit into a tube. And I remember reams and reams of questions. And it was all very well done so that I never felt tired. I never felt, what's the word? Here comes the brain fog. Complete,
Thorough.
Thorough.
Yeah. Let's bring you in, Professor Chris Ponting from the Decode Me study. Chris, where did the idea for Decode Me come from?
In large part, it came from the community that Laura was just describing. I have a very good friend who his life was destroyed by ME, who I met at university. And there was a vacuum, a research vacuum. No one was apparently working in it. I thought I could help. They have needed such a large study that would be well powered to find new things that would be helpful for understanding ME forever. And the kinds of technologies that are available haven't been used for ME. And so the community realized early that this kind of study was required. And ultimately, over a few years, we together were able to persuade the funding agencies, MRC and NIHR, to fund £3.2 million for this large study. In essence, we had to go to them in competition with every other disease. And in the past, that competition is one in which ME has lost.
Why do you think that is, Chris?
I think there's a huge amount of stigma. I think it's because it's a strongly biased, female-biased disease. And I'm on record of saying that I think this is an aspect to do with misogyny.
So how did the study work? What's the science behind it? You tested over 15,000 people with ME.
So we have looked at the DNA differences that people carry around with them the whole of their lives and compared them with the general public's DNA and asked across the whole genome, where is it that people with ME more often have particular differences?
And where is it?
We found that there are at least eight different places in the human genome where people with ME have, on average, a different frequency of these DNA differences than the general population. And that, because we've taken account of possible problems such as people's differences and their ancestries, etc., we're quite convinced that this relates to the causes of ME. And because these 8 different places lie next to genes that are understood to do with the nervous system, they're understood to do with the immune system, we can now say that the genetics is telling us it's like the DNA speaking back to us about the neurological issues and the immune issues that people with ME have often spoken to us before about.
But it's not proof, is it? Yeah. Why not? How does that work?
Science has different degrees of proof. The process by which we gain most confidence is replication. And so we went out to other researchers around the world and asked them to look in their data to see whether there was any evidence that what we had seen, they also have seen. And in 4 of the 8 regions, there was a modest amount of proof of replication, which is telling us that we're on the right lines.
Okay, but the study hasn't been peer reviewed. How important is it that it's now peer reviewed? And what happens if it fails?
Well, peer review often improves the manuscript, and we look forward to having that challenge to improve the manuscript. So the reason we have not gone down that route initially is because we always pledged that the results would be given back to our participants first, and to catalyze new research by those who are very happy with how we've written it up as soon as possible, rather than waiting a year or so for the peer review.
There is no test yet. There is no pill. It's early stages, isn't it? What do you want to happen next? What will happen next?
Yeah, we've always said with Decode ME that it will not immediately lead to an effective treatment or diagnostic tool. What it will do, and hopefully will do very quickly, is to light the path down which science should now progress. And now that we have shone a light on 8 places, these are the places in our genome that scientists should now pursue vigorously so that the understanding of why people have become so unwell is improved, and quickly.
Is there an appetite? Will scientists pick this up?
So we have freely given whatever data we have consent for, and the results have been downloaded in the last week by dozens of scientists from around the world. We want to give away all that we have done as soon as possible before peer review to absolutely catalyze these new changes to science.
I actually have a question, Chris. We got a little bit confused in the office. I mean, we're no scientists for a start, but we also got a bit confused because there was an article a couple of months ago with you in it as well, talking about ME being in the blood. How does it relate?
Yeah, good question. So it's a totally different study. It wasn't genetics. It was asking whether molecules are different between people with ME, molecules in the blood. So how do they relate to one another? Well, we're wanting to see whether people with ME have the same levels of molecules in their blood, and we found out that it was not the case, that there are 116 molecules that differ. And it was very important for us to then come back and publish that paper, which we did after peer review.
Okay. Let's come back to you, Laura. I mean, tell me how hopeful you are now feeling.
so much more hopeful. This is really shining a light on the situation. I'm hoping that it's going to be a real push to other people to really get going, pull all of this information together, and it's test, treatment, and cure is what we're all hoping for. That's kind of our trinity of hope. And I really do feel like we are moving in that direction so much faster than when I first became ill. And I didn't really see any hope on the horizon, honestly. Now I really feel like people are sitting up, paying attention, and doing something, which is so important.
Laura Boyles, thanks to you. Thanks, Professor Chris Ponting from the Decode ME study as well.
I want to thank you, Chris, very much as well, personally. Thank you so much for this. It's so important to us all.
Lovely to meet you.